Ever looked at a stunning website and wondered, how did you do that? Well, this is the magic of web development.
Oh my god. So I hope you're expecting everyone to like by now have a confidence on how to work with CSS. All right. Can everybody hear me now? Hello. Okay. All right. So, given that this week is the third week of our boot camp, and according to the syllabus, we are going to be starting JavaScript today. So, so today's class is going to focus on JavaScript, and going forward, we're going to embark on what JavaScript is all about, because the goal of this boot camp is to let us be confident with web development using React for front end and Node.js for back end, which the two is built on JavaScript. So, but for today, we are going to be walking us through the basic of JavaScript to let us understand what JavaScript is all about. So, and one thing I want to tell us is that we should not panic on anything we are working to. Maybe we feel like we are here to understand CSS enough and we are moving to JavaScript. So we are here every time. You can always reach us, and you guys should go through the resources we dropped for everyone to work on, both the PDF and all the links provided. So, and I believe by the end of the boot camp, everybody must be good with either front end or back end. All right. So let's get started. What is JavaScript? And I understand that before before now, every one of us must one way or the other heard about what JavaScript is, how powerful the JavaScript engine is, and what it's all about. A lot, a lot of us must have read up on it. So, and today we have opportunity. We are going to walk us through what it is. And like I said, JavaScript is a very powerful tools that turn static page into interactive experience. Like we all said, and what we've walked ourselves through the other time, JavaScript is one thing that is very, very important to mimic all the web pages, give us the fun activity on the websites, either the animation, the the click effects, the mouse over, all those kind of effects where we always have anytime we're on a website or any web portal. So JavaScript is what make it comfortable for us to do all those things. So building complex web applications, JavaScript is the key to unlocking a world of possibility. Like we all said, so we can achieve a lot of things with JavaScript. Speaking of building complex application, like building um, a pop-up application as a standalone system where you can inject it to another website or another web application. So you can use JavaScript to handle us all those things on the front end and basically on the vanilla JavaScript by manipulating the the websites we are building. All right. So what we are going to be talking about on the introduction to JavaScript. So we're going to be walking ourselves through the basic knowledge of HTML and CSS. Okay, the requirements for learning the JavaScript. We need to understand the basic, which we've already walked ourselves through in the past class and past weeks. The HTML and CSS, a text editor, a browser, and a logical thinking and tenacity while learning JavaScript. Um, and good thing about what we're going to be teaching ourselves today is talking about the logical parts of JavaScript, how the JavaScript function by handling logical operation. So we're going to talk through that today. And also, it is the most commonly used programming language, exactly, because JavaScript is very, very wide. We can use JavaScript for web app. We can use JavaScript for front end. We can use JavaScript for back end. We can use JavaScript for mobile app. And given all these things, we can read up on what um, all these things is all about. For example, for the mobile app, we have something we called React Native. It's a library that is used to build a cross-platform application. What I mean by cross-platform application is that what when you write a single piece of code, is a single piece of code, you can turn it to function as a mobile app that works on Android application, Android environment, and iOS environment. So you can see how powerful JavaScript is. You can write JavaScript that will give us a mobile app that function perfectly on Android environment and also iOS environments. Also, we also use JavaScript for web application, which we are going to be leveraging a lot of tools like React library, Vue.js, Angular. So those are the three powerful library for front end, and the node environment is for the back end. So and also jobs in high demand. That is that if you learn JavaScript and you are very proficient and very comfortable with JavaScript, you tend to have opportunities for jobs in in the job market of today. So also how to set up JavaScript. Basically, if you have a Chrome, a browser on your device, you can run JavaScript because the browser is what we translate the code you written. So we have the JavaScript, how to set up JavaScript environment. All you need is just your text editor and the web browser to run the code. So running JavaScript on the browser, you can run your JavaScript code on the browser directly on your web browser. So we can walk ourselves through it now. Let me show us something. The power of JavaScript over here. So if I go over to google.com, you can just click on inspect right here and come over here and type. Can everybody see my screen? Type console.log hello world. Can we see that? So a web browser is all we need to execute JavaScript function or JavaScript library or JavaScript code. So that's it. So all right. So basically, this is just what we mean. You can right click on the Chrome browser or any browser we are using, whether it's Firefox, Mozilla, or any kind of browser we are using. You can just go to the developer tools by clicking on the web page and click on the inspect. So I'll move on to the console part. So, all right. So JavaScript is like I believe based on what we've done with CSS. Can everybody understand what I'm saying? Can anybody hear me? I need hello. Can you guys understand me? Am I audible? All right. Can I go on with the class? Somebody said no. All right, all right, all right. I should go ahead. Good, good, good. All right. So I want to jog our memory on the CSS we on CSS. So now we talked about um, how to interact with CSS on the HTML file. We talked about putting the CSS in line with the HTML code, and also, gosh, oh, so sorry for that. Hmm. All right. So I said we can inject the CSS inline into the code, and also we can inject it externally by putting it inside a separate file, or internally by putting it at the head of the HTML file. I believe you understand. We can put the CSS inside the HTML line, or put it at the top of the HTML file inside the header by putting it in the style, or creating a separate file called .css and inject it into the HTML file. So the same thing is also applicable to the JavaScript here. We can inject JavaScript inline into our code. Also, we can inject it internally into the code, or creating a separate .js file and insert it into the HTML code. So this is an example of an inline JavaScript, whereby if you have an HTML file called a HTML button called click me, you can inject a file, you can inject your HTML and CSS in the file, in the HTML, to achieve this. So let's work again on that. So we can implement it internally also by having the JavaScript can be added directly into the HTML file by writing the code inside the script tag. Can we see what we have over here? Before, um in the CSS file, what we create, the tag we create is called style tag. But right here, what we are going to be using is script tag. So now, when you place the JavaScript at the bottom of your HTML body, it gives the HTML time to load before the CSS JavaScript load, which can prevent error and speed up website response. This is very, very important. Whenever you are putting the script tag on the HTML file, we should put it at the bottom of our HTML file, not at the top of the HTML file. So now, this is what I mean by the external file. Why we have JavaScript tag with a source file called hello.js. You know, the same knowledge we implement in CSS is the same thing we are implementing over here. So I would like to show us how this work. So let's do something real quick. Okay. Mm, all right. Let's walk through this index.js. Before we have something called coming. Mm, okay, we have .html and we have it like this. All right, are we still here? Okay, I should zoom in. All right, all right. Can you guys see my screen now? Okay, just a basic implementation. So this is it. All right, so we're going to have the body. This way, and HTML tag. So JavaScript intro. JavaScript intro. All right, so we can have it. So let's walk ourselves through what we said the other time. We can create an on-click on the button. So let's do something like that real quick. Button, click me. Is my screen visible? Someone said, oh God. How about now? Is it visible very well? Okay. So you can now create on click tag by having alert hello world. Hello world. All right. So what I'm basically doing over here is that I'm creating a, a JavaScript, a HTML file to demonstrate the inline functionalities of the JavaScript. All right, let me show us how this work. So this is what we have here. So when we click on this button, a pop-up will come up on our website. Is this visible very well? Can everybody see my screen very well? Okay, I've tried to zoom in very well. How about now? Can you guys see my screen very well? Okay. So the code basically explained that we create an HTML tag. This is the HTML tag that we create just now. So the button tag and implements an inline JavaScript inline. So this is an inline example of JavaScript with our HTML. So you create a button file and you inject it over here. Now, when you click on this is what we get. All right. So let us go through this again, and we can now have the embedded script. So we explained that we can have it at the top of the code. Now, for example, we want to implement the same functionality we have on the HTML file of the web page. So now let's implement something like this. So what we want to do right here is that, for example, we have, instead of using this, we can create a script tag. A script tag to execute when the web page load. Let me show something like that real quick. So we can do console.log hello world. So whenever this page load, the console.log will print on our web page. Okay, let me show us something like that now. So when we do this and refresh the web page, can everybody hear me? Okay, so if I refresh this web page now, we are going to see a hello world over here. That's because the hello world is inserted directly on the code to execute when the web page load. Do we get? So now this is an example. So now let me now implement something like this whereby if we click this button, this will show. So we can just create a function, show alert, and we put this code over here, and on click we can now have it to execute the show alert function. So let me recap what I just did over here. So what I'm trying to do right now is that when we click this button, this should show the hello world. What I'm doing right here is that I'm separating the JavaScript from the HTML file. So I'm no longer doing inline anymore. The JavaScript is now internal. So internal JavaScript. The HTML will reference this. So now let me show us what will happen when we do this. So if we refresh our web page and we click on this, click me, this is what we get. So JavaScript shows and walk us through the interaction on our website. So this is internal JavaScript. We've talked about the inline and the internal. So let us implement the external right now. So what I'm going to do is create a separate file called script.js and migrate our function into the script file. Then come over here, reference it, source, the script file, just like that. Now this is external. So we've done the inline, the internal, this is the external. So we now see that the JavaScript file is no longer inside the HTML file. We now have it as a separate file, which is javascript.js and the script.js. Now, if you refresh the web page and you click me, we will still get the same interaction we are getting when we use the inline, the internal, and the external. All right. Do we all understand? Hello? Okay. Do we understand? Oh, all right. Let me explain one more time on the JavaScript slide. So we have the inline JavaScript. That is where we implement something like this, where we create a button tag and put the script file inside it. The internal is where we separate it, putting the scripts under the HTML file. And the external is where we separate both the HTML and the script file into a separate file. Okay, so let us explain what we meant by a JavaScript statement. So a JavaScript program is made up of series of statements. This statement contains JavaScript constructs, command, and keywords. Now we're going to be walking ourselves through couples of um, statements when we start working on documents DOM, when we start doing it DOM. So that is where we are going to be manipulating our web page using JavaScript like we did the other time. So we have something called the document.write, whereby we use the document to write on the statement and line by line, and also we can achieve a lot of this thing on the web browser. So now we have something we call comment, like we normally do. Comment is whereby we need to, we have something in the project and program execute line by line. So let's assume we don't want a line to execute. What we need to do is comment out the line. So we can implement a single line comment or multiple line comments. So this is to achieve a single line comment. All we need to do is add double slash at the back of the line. And also to achieve a multiple line comment, what we need to do is implement slash star and star slash at the back of where we don't want the code to execute. So do we all understand? Okay. Somebody said I should show my code. All right, let me quickly implement this. I want us to go through all this. We have limited time. So this is what we have, the comments. We can show alert, JavaScript, Bootcamp. So if I don't want this line, if we want to implement a single line comment, all we need to do is comment out this line. Comment out this line. This is a single line comment. But if we want to implement multiple line comments, we are going to do this or this. So you can now have other executable code after the comment. Exactly. Comment is different whenever we are working with different programming language. So this is comment in JavaScript, and this is comment in HTML. Can we all see? Also, maybe we find ourselves working with other language, maybe SQL, PHP. We are going to get ourselves familiar with how comments works in different environments. All right, so let's proceed. So now we now have variables. What do we understand by variable? Variable is a reference to a memory location in the computer RAM, usually for storage of data. So let me just give us a basic understanding of what variable means. Variable is used to store value. We should understand that, but high level explanation of it is that when you declare a variable, the variable create a space in the RAM or the memory of the system we're working with. So every variable you create will occupy a space on the memory. That is that they have a size assigned to them. It's a bit or a byte. Depends on how large or how small the value and the variable type of what you declare is. All right. So now inside JavaScript, we have the var variable, and also we have the let and const. So these three variables have different operation they perform. So now we have the keyword const is used when a variable will not be reassigned to another value. That is that const value, a constant value, will not be reassigned to another value. But we can use var and let to hold a value and also reassign a value to that variable. I know this might sound new to us, but we are going to explain this and implement it soon. Let's proceed. So now, this is what we have. Can everybody see the screen very well? Can everybody see the screen very well? Or I need to zoom in. All right. So now, we explained that we have let the other time. So now, the first line of the code, we create a variable called my name. That's how you declare a variable in JavaScript. So the variable type and the variable name. Let is the variable type, while name is the variable name. So we assign a value called David to my name. I've tried to zoom in very well. All right. So we assign David, which is a string, to my name variable name, and the let is the data type. So now we now console.log my name. So it is going to print David for us. Now we now said let name Sodiq, and also we said name equals David. What just happened right here is that we create the variable, the name Sodiq, and at the same time we assign another name David to it. So let me show us what will happen now to get ourselves familiar with that. So let us so we create a variable, let's name equals David. So if we console.log name, can we see this code? So we create the variable and assign a value to it. So we create a variable name and assign a value. A David to it. So let me show us what it looks like over here. Okay. All right. So this is what we have. When we create the variable, we create the variable here, variable name, and we assign name to it. So if we print it, console.log, this is what we get. David. We get it on the console log of the web browser. So now we now said when we create a variable, we can also reassign value to it. What do we mean by that? We said name should hold David. We can reassign another value to it by declaring it like this: name equals Sodiq. So if we print name, the value will be Sodiq. Do we understand? Let me show us what that means. See, it overwrites the David store in it to Sodiq. So that's the how let's work. So and the same thing goes for var. If you change the type to var and you refresh, the same thing happen. But now when we are trying to work with constants, we said that const only hold a constant value that cannot be changed. So this is what will happen when we change the name to const and try to overwrite it to Sodiq. You are going to get an error. Can we all see the error? The error said uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. That is, we cannot overwrite the constant variable. So that's the difference between a constant variable and a let and var. All right. So now if we delete this, let us we comment this out. We no need longer need to overwrite it. So we have David. So that is it. And all right, so we have variables naming rule. So what do we what do we put in mind when declaring a variable? So what we mean by this is that they can only contain letters. They can only contain letters, numbers, underscores, or dollar sign. But the first character cannot be number. Do you understand? When you declare a variable, the first character cannot be a number. Your variable name can contain underscore, letters, or numbers. Like for example, we can declare variable name called student name, right? You can even declare the variable to be a camel case, whereby the word you have two words together, but the second word will come with camel case capital letter, or maybe you have students' names. You can have something like this underscore name. So your variable name can contain underscore, can be camel case, can even have numbers. You can have number in it, but cannot cannot start with number. You see, it throws an error immediately that the variable name cannot consist of a number. So that is it. Let's continue. So we can also not use a reserved word in JavaScript. What do we mean by you cannot use a reserved word? Reserved words are words that are tied to the programming language you are working with. Let us assume something like this. We cannot use we cannot declare a variable name called function because function is a reserved word. We cannot declare a variable name called const. Const is a reserved word in JavaScript. We cannot declare a variable name called let. Let is a reserved word in JavaScript. Same thing goes for. All these are reserved word in JavaScript. All right. So we also said they are case sensitive. So number one is different from number one. So sure, this is a clear difference. So also picking a naming convention and stick with it exactly. So whenever you are working on a project or maybe you're collaborating, if the convention you guys are working with on the project is something like this, number one, you understand the convention here. This is a two word. Number one is being written in lowercase, or number one, which is camel casing, or using underscore to separate the word number underscore one. We should follow the naming pattern we're using in the code in the project we're working with. So now this is the naming rules. What I just shows right now. This is an example of it, whereby you have two cannot comes because it's a numeric, cannot comes first, cannot consist of characters like semicolon. The only characters that we can use is underscore. So that is all. And also we have data types. So can everybody hear me? We should continue. Can you guys see my screen very well? Hello? Is anybody here? All right, we should carry on. So they said JavaScript has 5 primitive data types. We should pay attention to this place very well. The data type that we have 5 primitive data type. That is the data type that is assignable and we have that we can work with in JavaScript. We have the string, the number, the boolean, and the null, and undefined. I will explain this to us and we are going to practice it now. So one non-primitive data type, which is object. And object is basically what we have to store data, a lot of data as a single entity, and it can also consist a key value pair. All right, so that's what object basically means. And later in the future, we're going to be working with objects very well. Okay, so there's also another data type, which is array. So array is very different from object, but they kind of look similar. But array is more advanced. We have because we have a lot of ways of working with array. All right, so also string numbers and boolean type can also expressed as object data type. More on the later in the manual. So we're going to explain this very well to us, and we're going to practice it. So what are primitive data type? Primitive data type consists of string number, boolean, null, and undefined. What do we even mean by string? String is uh, a data type that is non-numeric. That is, they are basically strings and alphabets. You have them in string. Anything you quote, use quotes for something like this. This name variable, this name right here is string. Is string because we quote it like this. If we have this name like this as 12, name is now numeric because it's holding 12. If we have it like this, false, it is now boolean. So that's basically what all those explanation means. All right, let's proceed. So now we can find a variable with no value, that is, there is no value in it, and undefined. We have a variable that is null, that is, we have a variable that does not have any value, that is null. Undefined means it's not being defined. All right. So now this is an example of what we explain. So undefined and non-data type is a value given to a variable that have been declared but not yet assigned to a value. Yeah, you can declare a variable without assigning a value to it. What we did the other time. Let's assume we declare const test. So we declare const name right here. We have not assigned any value to this name. So this name is null or can be undefined. So that's what we mean over here. Undefined. But the moment we assign a value to it, it's no longer null or undefined. It's now a string because a value has been assigned to it. All right. So also we said operation on primitive data type, that is concatenation of operators. What do we mean by concatenation? What we mean by concatenation is that joining two string or two value together, that is two string together. And in JavaScript, the sign for us to concatenate a string together is plus sign. When you declare a value, a variable, you want to join them together, all you need to do is assign plus to it. Let me show us how that works. So let's assume we have first name, second name. So we can declare variable like this when we have the same data type in JavaScript, or you can separate it like this. Anything that works for us, you can use it this way. And you have the first name equals Mike, second name equals to John, okay, Josh. So we now want to show the full name. So let's assume we have full name. So this is where the concatenation comes in. This is where the concatenation comes in. We have full name equals first name plus second name. This is concatenation right here. Now we can now console.log full name. Let me re-explain one more time. We said concatenation is the process of joining two strings together, two values together. Right here, we declare three variables: first name, second name, and full name. We assign Mike to the first name, Josh to the second name. We are now assign first name and last name. We join in together to full name. So if we go to the browser and we refresh the web page, this is what we get: Mike, Josh. We join it together using plus. Do we understand? So we can now add another concatenation to it, holding the two space, empty space in the variable to give us Mike space Josh. We have, can you guys see what I did here? I had a space to it. So to add a space to it, all you need to do is just add another plus and two semicolon space. So if you refresh the web page, this is what we get: Mike space Josh. Do we understand? Can we continue? Okay, somebody said, how do I make space between the names? How I make space between the names is by adding a space, semi just semicolon, two column, then space. That's all. All right. So let's just continue. We will stop at that type. All right. So now, can everybody see my screen? Um, can you guys see my screen? Do we have any question? All right, I'm seeing a lot of questions. What is the plus for? The plus is the concatenation sign. That is, we are joining three things together. We are joining the first name, the empty space, and the second name. That's what we have the plus for. Yes, plus is the concatenation for joining the. Okay. All right. We we are meant to have a break right now, and we're going to join black back in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Have you ever looked at the stunning platforms?
All right, we are welcome back. Can you guys hear me? Now break is over. Are we back? All right, can we proceed? All right. So we stopped at string concatenation, where we work ourselves through the process of concatenating strings. So now, do we have any question on that before we proceed to the next slide? Okay. So um we have okay now we the next thing on the agenda is to discuss what we know as comparison operators. So what we simply means by that is comparison. Like we want to compare the difference, the equality between variables and values. So this is mostly what we are going to be dealing with a lot whenever we are developing our system. So, or we are building a logical operation, we're developing a mathematical system. So, right here, we are going to give us an overview of how this work, and we can practice this also to show us what we and the type of logical operators we have. So we have double equal to. So that's what we use as equal to. Also, we have the triple equals to. Also, we have not equal. Then we also have not equal with double equal sign. So which is not equal to value or not equal to the type. This is what we call as an aggressive equal to. You want to double check, you want to verify the value and also the data type. Then we have greater than, less than, less than or equal to, and less than, greater than or equals to, and also less than or equal to. So a very good example is where we have, let's explain what we understand by the w equals to. Now we have a system that we want to check whether a first value is equal to the second value. So let me give us an example. Let me explain something real quick over here. Remember that we have x equals to 5. Don't let us mistake a single equals to double equals to or triple equals to. Single equals to is an assignment operator. Single, this equals to over here, the single equals to is an assignment. We are assigning a value to a variable. we are assigning 5 to equals to using a single equals to. But double equals to is used to check if a value is equals to another value. All right. So now let's assume what we have here. We said x equals to 5. Over here, we are now checking if x equals to 8. By default, the answer is false because the value of x is 5. Somebody asked, how do we know the reserved words? Okay, the reserved words are words that are basically strictly typed to that programming language, specific to that programming language. When we dive deep more into JavaScript, we are going to get familiar with reserved word. All right. So also we have x equals to 5, which is true. And also we have x equals to 5, but in quote. This is false. Let's dive deep into that. Let me show us what that means real quick. All right. We have x equals to 5. Can everybody see my screen? Well, let me zoom in very well. All right. So we said x console.log x equals 8. We have 855. Then 5. And this string. So this is the results. Let me show us the results before I explain what is going on. All right. So the first one is false, the second one is true, and the third one is true. Okay. This is not supposed to be true. This is supposed to be false because this is a string. All right. I expect that. So we are going to treat this very well. Okay. So why this is false? We expect this to be false is because the value of x is not equals to 8 because over here x is 5. So this will give us true. This will give us false. We assign 5 to x, and inside the memory we understand that the computer understand that x is 5. So you now checking, is x equals to 8? X is not equals to 8. That's false. Over here x equals 5. That is true because we assign 5 to it. And right here I expect it to be false because x over here is 5, which is numeric, and the x over here is string. So this is supposed to be false, right? But we are getting true. Okay, so to check if this is true, let me implement a double equals to that will convert it to false. It will double check why this is false because the string 5 year hold string x that we check, the value is numeric, while while the 5 we are checking, the value we are checking is string. So the triple equals to, we strictly check check the value and the variable type. If it match, that is when this will be true. But if not, it will be false. So this can only be true only if the value we are checking it against is the same variable type. Right now, the 5 is string. So if we refresh this browser now, we are going to see true. Yes. Somebody asked, does the quote sign make it a string? Yes, the quote sign is what changed the variable back to string, because the JavaScript understand this as string right here. So it's the same thing as, let's do this, 5. We cannot set x, which is 5. The x over here, we assign it to 5. It's the same thing as this. This will be false. If we refresh, it will be false, because it sees this as string. But if we strictly check this, if we check like this, because it's the same value, it will be true. Even though we now change it to 55, it will be false. But if we want it to strictly check whether it is true or false, because this 5 right here is a string, you can't tell us that string is the same thing as numeric. So that's the power of triple equals to. All right, so let's proceed without wasting much of our time on that. So now we've covered the triple equals to and the double equals to. So now let's now talk about what we understand by not equal, the not sign with the equals to. So the not equals, not equal, we represent it by this. So we can say 5 not equals to 8, which is true, because the x, we store 5 into x, is not equals to 8. That's true. That's false. That's true, Jerry, because 5 is not equals to 8. But the only way we can check is using equals to. All right, so that is what we have here. Without wasting much of our time, let's go through this one more time. So we also have a not equals to with double sign. So not equal value, not equal to check the value and also check the type. So we also have x not equals 5, which is false, and also x not equals to 5. This right here is string. X not equals to 8, which is true, because this over here we check if the x is string, which is true. The 8 is string, that pass. But the value 5 not equals to 8, which is true. All right. We also have greater than, the operator, the operand sign, operator, operand. Yes, greater than. So we can check whether the x, which we assign 5 to, is greater than 8. That is false, because 5 is not greater than 8. It's less than 8. The less than sign less than 8. 5 is less than 8. That is true. We also have greater than or equals to. 5. 5 is less than 8, but not equals to 8. So that's false. It's only less than but not equals to 8. And 5 is also okay. 5 is greater than or not equals to 8. And we also have less than or equals to 8. Do we need to okay, let me show us that. Okay, somebody said I should explain string again. Okay, so string. Let me show us. A string is a value that hold a variable that is not numeric. That's a string. But we can also define a variable by strictly telling the data type to hold a string. All right. So I don't know if that explains it very well. You understand that? All right. So let's practice this. Greater than, less than 8. mm, is greater than 8 or less than 8. So we can show ourselves what this is. So it's false. The first one is false and second one is true. All right. So we also have okay. Less than or equals to. All right. We also have that to be true and false. Okay. Let's show us what we have here also. So we now have a logical operators. So logical operator is used to determine the logic between variables and value, right? So this is more, let's say, is more of advanced comparison. We want to check if the value in the right hand side or left hand side is the same thing, whether we are dealing with a numeric on the right hand side or we're also dealing with a numeric on the left hand side, or you want to compare. So we have and sign and the ampersand. We implement it in two types. So or we also have or and not. So which we just walk ourselves through over here, the not sign. This is how we implement the not sign. So the or sign and the and sign is the new thing we are getting familiar with. So let us assume we have x as a variable equals to 6 and y equals to 3. Or this is still a beginner class. The all everything we are teaching ourselves in JavaScript today, it's very basic thing in JavaScript. So we shouldn't worry. We are going to walk ourselves through it one more time in the next class. So we have x, which is 6, x which represents 6 is less than 10, and y, which is 3, is greater than 1. So the right hand sign at the left hand side needs to be true before the value is true. Let us implement this and show us what we mean by that. 6 and 3. Let x equals x and y equals 3. Console.log x less than 10, y less than 1. So let me break this down for us. We can have this like this, and also test for the second case. So x is less than 10. X is less than 10. 6 is less than 10. This is true. Then y is greater than 1. This is false because y is 3. No. I'm coming. Cannot express x before initialization. Okay, we will initialize it here. True. So we are meant to have x is less than 10. True. Y is greater than. So if we have 3, 11, so we should have false over here. Yes. So false. So one needs to be false. So if we have it this way, so now this is what I'm trying to tell us. So this will be false, and this will be false. Why? Because the right hand side needs to be true, and the left hand side needs to be true for this to be true. Do you understand? And sign need to check for the right hand side and the left hand side. So x, which is 6, is less than 10. This is true. Y, which is 3, is greater than 11. That's false. So if one of them is false, this will be false. But if two of them is true, it will be true. So if you turn this to 1, 3 is greater than 1, this will be true. And 3 is greater than 1, true. So this should also be true. So if we refresh our page, everything will be true. Do we understand? Hello? Can everybody hear me? Do we understand? All right. So let me walk us through this one more time. And operator, and check for both sides. So both sides need to be true before the operation can be true. So to treat the two operator as a single operation, So this two is a separate operation. So the and sign here, we treat it as a single operation. And to make this true, the both operation need to be true. All right. Let us move on to the next operator we have here. So we have or sign. So let's talk about this. We have equals 5 or y equals 5. It's still the same thing. To check the two side, the two operation we are performing on the two side. Let me show us what that means right here. Um, so we are treating or sign. Now, what all means is that if one of the two operation is true, it only needs to check for one side, not the two sides. So we have x equals 5 or y equals 5. So this operation right here, x equals 5. This first operation is false because x is 6 and y equals 5 is also false. Y is 3. So this operation will print false. So let's see on the web browser. So it prints false because the two side operation is false. Now, to equate it to 3 and to true, one of the two operations needs to be true. So if we say x is 6, which is true right here, our x is 6. So x equals 6. This operation is true. The first one is true, the first side, and the right and the left side, the second side is 5, which is false. If we refresh this, our operation will be true. Why? Because one of the side is true. The operation we are checking for is or. We don't need the two side to be true. And sign only need and sign operate on the two side. One of the two side need to two side need to be true for and to be true. Why and or one of the side need to be true for all to be true. Do we understand this operation right here? Or do we understand? Can we move on? All right. So we also have something we call control structures. We have something we call control structure. So inside the control structure, we have if statements. The control structures is break down to I think three. We have selection. So under the selection, we have if and switch. And under the iteration, we have for loop and for in, and also we have um, for each. Yes. So now, but today's class, we are going to be talking about the if statement. Let's just understand what if statement is. When next we are doing the advanced class, we are going to be talking more about all the loop operation very well. So if statement execute a block of code when the specified condition is true. So when the condition is false, the else block is executed. All right. So this is the basic syntax of what the if code looks like. We have we have if statements, we have if else statements, we also have if else if statements. Okay. So the three combined is what the syntax shows over here. If expression, you open the parentheses, the brackets, expression, and the parentheses to execute what we needed to execute. And we have else if the operation condition over here is true, this line of code will print. But if the condition we have over here on the expression 2 is true, that means the first expression is false. The second expression will execute. So if the two expression is false, the code will execute the else statement. All right. This is what we are going to be talking more in the next class. I don't want us to practice this tonight because it's getting more difficult for us. So also we are going to be talking about for loop in our next class. I want us to I intended for us to practice everything here today, tonight, but I think the class is getting much wider for us to follow up with. So we just need to like set our minds to it. So next class we are going to be talking more in depth about all these things. All right. So that would be the end of our class for today. So if we have any question, we should send it in. Thank you very much.
Have you ever looked at the stunning website and web platforms?